All right, so when you're looking at your strategy for your life, whether it's in your business, your life, your marriage, your happiness, your family, your purpose, all that stuff, there's like a parasite in the system. There's a virus in the system of when you look at your life. And a lot of people attribute it to thinking it's money. It's like you don't have enough money, or you have too much stress around money, or you're making good money but you want to make more. That is a symptom of it, okay? Pay very close attention to this. So we're about to open up something that could really change your life. It actually will change your life when you realize it and you implement it. Depending on how much you can hear this, how much you can internalize this, this is a concept that really explains and gives context to the most important stuff I've ever done that has actually changed my life and helped me make progress, helped me make real tangible steps to like cross the bridge from no success to a lot of success, and then keep crossing to more and more success. This concept that I'll explain is the thing that when it's grasped allows you to then go to that next bridge and like hit your goals. So when you look at your goals and your to-do list and your monthly goals and your quarterly goals, like this thing will help you get there. And so a lot of people will attribute their problems to money and stress and like, oh, if I just had more money, or I just need to focus on money and all that. I made other episodes on this and I talk about this a lot, but money isn't really the thing that you need to focus on. The thing to focus on is the activity that gets you the money. But even with the activity, can you imagine how there's some people who do a lot of activity, a whole frenzy of activity, a whole flurry of it, but then they end up still not making the money that they want to make? Why is that? So let me explain it to you through a story, because stories are great. Stories are entertaining, and they are a way to really embed something like a seed. So back 4 years ago, I was doing business for a long time. I would sell websites to people. I would build sales funnels. I would do project management consulting. I did all sorts of things to make money, but I was always trading my time for money. And then one day, end up getting introduced to this thing called e-commerce, and started to realize that, oh, you can use technology, you can use the internet as leverage. You can use paid advertising as leverage. I started to really understand leverage. Keyword, understand. Yes, leverage is also a keyword, but the real word is understand. And so I'm doing e-commerce, right? And I'm thinking that I'm following the directions. I'm learning e-commerce from this young kid. And by the way, for anyone listening to this, because I get asked this quite often now, is people saying, oh, you did e-commerce, you made all this money. How should I do e-commerce? The answer is, don't do e-commerce. It doesn't work anymore. After COVID and after the most recent elections, they've clamped down so much. It's the days are numbered where you can build e-com unless you're already super freaking rich, or you have a really, really well-established brand and physical presence. Good luck competing with Amazon, because Jeff Bezos is determined to have the everything store. He's not kidding. He's going to have every single thing that can be sold online, and e-commerce will go through Amazon. He will outcompete you. He can outspend you. You don't stand a chance if you're thinking like that. But at the time, for me, it's like the economy is always shifting and moving. So there's different times where different things are practical. And I happen to find the right place at the right time with e-commerce. And I'm doing the thing. I think that I'm applying myself. Maybe you felt this way too, where you are doing the things you think you're supposed to do to get the result, and you're testing it and you're failing, and you're testing it and you're failing. Sometimes you're learning. Sometimes you get the feedback. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes you get the feedback, but you react to it emotionally, so you don't actually get the feedback. It's in systems, there's feedback. And being able to use systems thinking helps with success. So, what I didn't really see, this was like one day in particular. This is after I was introduced to TechnoTutor. I started to use it. Started to reprogram my mind, reprogram how I think. Basically a cleanup of the programming. Like a deep clean for your computer. And I'm using it every day for like an hour every morning. So I'm working on myself to change my understanding, change my programming, change my processing ability. And then right afterwards, I would jump right into work. And there was 2 days in particular. One day, I would do the Techno-Tutor, and then I would open up my advertising platform. I'd like actually get to work. So it's like finding products, launching products, looking at the ads, optimizing the ads, tweaking the ad budgets, all this fancy stuff. That was like actually what were the activities to make the business move. And one day I noticed just how negative I was. And I reacted to it. And because of that reaction, I stayed at the same level. Then the next day, I did the same thing. I did my Techno-Tutor. I did new words, new thing. I was programming new information into myself, new ideas, new programs of how I wanted things to go. And then I open up the thing again, and I would just dread it. Like, you ever do that where you got to go to work, you got to get the work done. Even when you work for yourself, you got to get the work done. You got to do the activity. And I would just dread it. It would just feel so shitty. I did not like it, but I just sat down, I drank my coffee, I put myself in the zone, put on the music, razz myself up to just go do it. And I remember looking, and I would open the bank account, I would open the ads, I would open everything, look at the numbers. And I reacted. But in this time, I could see the numbers, and I had a new insight, a new understanding. And this is the main point I want to get across. In that moment, I had a new understanding. And therefore, because it was a real understanding, therefore I acted differently. Really what it was is I was looking at, there's a specific number. It's called your return on ad spend. It's a fancy term in e-commerce, but it's basically what is the return you're getting for your ad spend. So if I put in $500 to test a product and I made $590, that would give me a certain amount. If I made $600, that would give me a certain amount. If I made $650, if I made $480, it's like I would spend $500 because I was supposed to put $100 in a day for 5 days in a row. And after that, if it was a 1.3 return on ad spend or higher, you keep it going. If it was 1.3 or 1.29 or less, I would shut it off. And what's so funny is I knew that, I quote unquote knew this from day one. This was the first thing that was ever taught to me in e-commerce. ROAS, they call it. ROAS, return on ad spend. And I would see those numbers, and they told me, at day 5, if it is above or below this certain ROAS, you turn it off or you keep it going. And what I would do, because I would react to it, because I didn't have good ROAS, or it was like, it was so close, I would react to it, and then I would deviate from the system. I know I'm getting extremely technical, and you might be like, why the hell is he doing this? It's because you're doing this in your own vertical of your life. You're thinking that you're going to get some outcome. You know what outcome you're supposed to get, and you're not getting it. And so then you justify, and then you keep doing the bullshit. Keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting a different result. Because you're reacting, and because you're playing with money now, and because you have to put in money or time or energy into growing the thing that you're trying to do, you'll justify. For example, you might be in a relationship right now, and they might react in the same way to you when you use that certain tone of voice or whatever. You fight over the dishes or whatever. And it's like, but it's a little tiny bit different this time. So you justify to yourself, and you say, oh, okay, well, maybe it'll get a little bit better. But nothing fundamentally changes. There's no actual new understanding. You don't do anything differently. So this whole time I've been explaining this to really set the stage for what is the word, what is the thing holding you actually back. And it relates to understanding, but what I'll call it is the dumb tax. It's the dumb tax. It is the most expensive tax you're paying. Because right now, again, you may think your issue is you don't know how to get the right return on ad spend. You may think you don't know how to just get the right product to make it exactly tweaked and it's perfect and then you succeed. That's not really your issue. The real dumb tax is the fact that you don't even know what's going on in your own fucking mind. You don't even know why you're reacting to things. You don't even know why when you open your bank account, you have a pit in your stomach. Or when you look at your business partner and you go into a little story in your head, you don't even know how much that's costing you. So you will think it's that metric in your business. Or you will think it's just because your spouse is moody. But what you're failing to realize and see and understand is that you are creating reality in every single moment. In a quantum moment, you're always generating reality. But the thing is, you're generating reality with all of your bullshit with it. And so for me, my ignorance tax was costing me so much money because I didn't even realize that I was still reacting to a memory from my childhood of when I would lose money. I would like work and then be given money for like mowing the lawn or something like that. And then I would go spend it. And I didn't have understanding of like that process. And then I would feel bad. And then I would feel like a victim. And then I had to wait until another opportunity presented itself. And that was the real thing I had to resolve. That's what I used Technotutor for. That's what I used self-forgiveness for. And it resulted in me having the understanding of saying, oh, wow, I'm reacting and I'm not actually following the thing that I know I need to do. And so that allowed for the space for me to say, oh, wow, I'm just reacting to these numbers and this return on ad spend. Instead of realizing where I should actually be focusing is on generating new opportunities. So then I did my Technotutor on that of like, okay, well, what am I actually not learning here? What is the real thing I need to do? And then I realized, oh, wow, I'm spending 4 hours a day looking at my ads, trying to tweak them, trying to make something that's not working, trying to make that work. Instead of looking at what is the actual activity that will generate the opportunity. This is, again, really technical, but what I then realized, because I could actually process information, and I was able to pay down that ignorance tax, the dumb tax. Then I realized, oh, wow, what if I just spent 4 hours a day researching new products and throwing up new products? I know that sounds so simple, and you're probably like, oh my God, you could have just done that without having to do the whole thing. The thing is, I wasn't doing it. For 9 months, I wasn't doing it. And it took me to that point of realizing my unconscious bullshit was like foggy glasses covering my eyes. I couldn't even see what was in front of me. And until I had that realization about how I generated money, created opportunity for myself, and actually the physical steps that needed to happen and where I needed to focus, until I realized that, the business wouldn't have taken off. Then it took off. And then many of you know the story. But then I went from struggling to even make a couple $1,000 a month in profit before this, to then the next month I made $10,000 in profit. The next month I made $20,000 in profit. The next month I made like $35,000 in profit. In revenue, I was making $250K a month because I figured out where to focus, figured out the leverage. But it was because I was willing to look at where is that ignorance tax? Where is that dumb tax? Because consider this, the most expensive mistake you're making right now, well, we'll go real deep in a second. The most expensive mistake that you're making right now, financially, is the fact that you're unable to go create $1 million right now. Create the value for that. That's the most expensive financial mistake right now. But as you know, this podcast is called Purpose in Reality. In reality, if your purpose is money, you're fucked. I'm not saying you can't make money. You need to make money. But you could go make your money working for a weapons company developing bombs that are getting dropped on Ukrainian citizens right now. And if you're like, I would never do that. It's like, right now you still have ignorance tax on understanding how the world economy is all interconnected. So by the fact that you're using money right now and participating in a banking system, or you have an insurance policy that's actually funding companies like BlackRock and Vanguard and State Street, you're actively investing in the weapons creation. So what's funny is I was talking about you learning how to create opportunity and generate opportunity. Well, here's the thing. You're already automatically generating the opportunity for these companies that we're all allowing to basically profit from war. And I'm not saying now, okay, well, you got to close your bank account and cancel your insurance policy and all that stuff. I'm not saying that. You got to be self-honest. That's the system we're in right now. But right now, if you don't pay down this ignorance tax of understanding how reality actually works, what you're actively creating with whatever you're doing, unless you're working on a real solution, the real solution is really just one. So unless you're working on that and you're like, selling solar, or you're selling Airbnbs, or you're selling life insurance or whatever, it's like you're actively creating that world. So you got to just be aware of what you're doing. Real self-honesty gut check. And you will justify it because you want the money right now, and it's nice to have the money, and it's nice to have 10K in your, coming in every single month and all that. Okay, cool. But then what are you using the 10K for? Are you also then working on the solution to the education system? Because right now kids are being systematically dumbed down by our school system, by learning phonics, by learning all sorts of shit they're learning in the classroom. I know there's some schools that are better than others in terms of how much the kids are totally being suppressed, versus sometimes they're like empowering, because there are teachers that do want to try and do what's best. They just also have an ignorance tax. They don't understand the system behind it. They don't understand how when that kid goes home and watches Disney Channel or TikTok videos, like they're getting impulsed with all sorts of things. So I know there's like really nitty gritty to really meta, but if you're listening to this, I'm sure you actually like that stuff. So the real ignorance tax to pay down is not just you learning how to make money. The real ignorance tax is when, if you're not careful, you're literally investing in our own enslavement. You're investing in our own enslavement. How? The World Economic Forum is openly saying that by 2030, they want people to own nothing and be happy, because they know that the economic system's collapsing. And they know that someone in Canada, for example, has to work for like 20 years. Like if they're getting minimum wage, they have to work for 20 years just to afford a down payment on a house. It's insane. The cost of living is going up. There's a lot of forces at play. There's not one specific group that's trying to control the world. I know I talk a lot about the World Economic Forum. There's other groups too. But the ignorance tax is that, first, you don't know how to make $1 billion through solving the problem, which is education. Some of you do know how to do it, and you're working on it every day. And props to you, and keep going. And share this with people. The second part is the ignorance tax of creating consequence. Because isn't it better to get ahead of the problem, support kids to get educated, support adults to change their programming, step up, be a self-leader, create community, learn how to get involved politically, make sure that the laws are all best for all instead of best for a few? Wouldn't that be better than waiting for 10 years and all of a sudden now we actually have these 15-minute cities and the birth rate has totally dropped and we have a population collapse and 1 in 3 kids is transgender? It's like, if you're ignorant to the fact that that's going on and that's where it's headed, I'm glad you're listening to this, because it's a real problem. If you can hear this and you want support, reach out to me. Find me on Facebook, connect with me. Some of you are already working on the solutions with us, with Self-Perfected, with TechnoTutor. Decentralizing education is what we're doing. We're decentralizing an elite education so that anybody can become elite. Anybody can become smarter than Bill Gates, Elon Musk, Klaus Schwab, all those guys combined. But it's a process. And it's really paying down that dumb tax as fast as possible so we can create a way better system. There's a quote by Buckminster Fuller. He says, I'm paraphrasing it, but it's basically, you don't change the system by fighting and trying to change the system. You change the system by making a new system that's so effective it makes the old one obsolete. And that's what we have. And we're expanding it. And that's why I make this podcast, because not everyone knows about it. Because it's not going to come from top down. CNN is not going to endorse it. Fox News is not going to endorse it. Because do you know who owns them? The people that want you enslaved into the metaverse. To just be so happy, getting high, getting drunk, working for the weekend, you're chilling, that you never pose a threat to the system that they have created, that we've created. I'm not even going to blame them. It's an acceptance and allowance. We're all participating in it. And so for you, my question for you for this is, where do you still have a high ignorance tax? Like if you're still just trying to figure out how to make ends meet, cool, there's clearly something you're missing with leverage or what you're selling or how you're selling it or whatever. And I'm going to really encourage you, tomorrow morning when you wake up, right away when you wake up, drink your coffee, whatever you do, your little morning routine, grab a journal, grab a blank piece of paper, and write out for yourself what activity has to change. What would be the best activity to do every day? And what does that look like in your schedule? For those of you who know how to do self-forgiveness writing, this would be a great self-forgiveness writing idea. But it's basically, figuring out the ignorance tax that you're paying right now. Because you might wake up and all of a sudden you scroll Facebook. You go on YouTube. What the hell are you doing? You're consuming. Your mind is consuming your body with bullshit. Converting your body into bullshit. If you're not using the first hour of your day in that space and time to really support yourself, to be clear, to figure out where the ignorance tax even is. Like if you're not doing that, it's going to be really, 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 it's going to be virtually impossible for you to change. So you got to really honor those early parts of the day. Maybe go on a walk, whatever you do. But use that time for yourself to have that clarity. And then get to work. And some of you right now are so beat up because you do go to work and you do grind and you do push yourself and it is difficult and you are making money and all that. But then you don't have a way to enjoy it and celebrate it. I'm going to encourage you, come on the Friday night hangouts in Self-Perfected. It is the best end of the week ever. You come on, you hear from people all around the world, different people's takes on things, what different people are working through, and people in there are crushing it. Especially since the San Diego event, there are people moving themselves at a whole other level. You might already be really well off financially, but are your relationships what you actually want them to be? With your wife, your husband, your kids? Do you have a community of people around you in person who meet up consistently? If not, come on those hangouts. We'll help you do that. We'll help you build that. Because it's one thing for you to pay down the ignorance tax for yourself, and also then to realize, oh, wow, the world is not what I thought it was. Wow, if we don't change the system, it's going to be really tough. Let's change the system. It's one thing to see that. It's another thing to then help others see that. Good leaders share vision. Great leaders give the vision. You give the vision to other people so then they can give it to others. It's more important now than ever. All right? So, glad you listened to this. Serious, do that exercise tomorrow morning when you're fresh. You woke up, get yourself a double espresso and have at it, right? Have fun with it. But really look at, specifically is where am I paying the ignorance tax? And if that doesn't make sense, just look at the fact of why do you not know how to create $1 million every month right now? Because we can use that money to fund political campaigns. We can use that money to buy media companies. What if we all bought Twitter instead of Elon Musk? What if we bought CNN and Fox News? And we talked about this stuff all the time. And this was what was playing when you walk through airports or you walk through shopping malls. And the shopping malls had really cool stuff. And everyone had enough money and common sense so they knew how to create a business so that they could afford everything. How cool would that be? That's what we're working on. That's real purpose. That's reality. That's what we're creating. And we need more people. We don't need everyone right now. Not everyone's going to understand it. Some people will fight for the old system. They'll fight for the World Economic Forum, which is enslaving them. That's all right. We don't need everyone. We just need enough to get enough power politically, financially. And then he changed the laws. That's how you change the system. All right. See ya.